Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm gonna be doing the deck profile. As some of you may know, and some of you may not know, I'm Kevin Malone, and I top aided the GGP at Philly with Warriors. So I'm gonna explain to you some of the reasons why I ran cards, and I'm gonna ultimately show you my deck list. And yeah, so let's get into it. So starting out, I ran Blackluster Soldier, and Breaker, and which are pretty much staples in the Warrior deck. And I ran 3 Blade Knights, but you'll see 99% of the Warrior decks running that. I ran 3 Kaikus and Golem Sentry, which if some of you don't know, SDL Killer ran it, and I'm not sure what a big event he ran it in, but he ran 3. And I didn't really get to talk to him about why he ran it or how he felt about it, but I wanted to take it to this event. I felt like it was really good, and maybe we had different opinions on it from me to SDL Killer, but I felt like there was still some good applications to it, so I wanted to give it a try. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I ran DD Warrior Lady, Exile, and Grandmaster. And I also ran level 2. So as you can see, I don't run Don Zalug in my deck list because I don't really have a real reason as to why I didn't, other than the fact that I didn't think it was that good. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of pushback on that. Mostly everybody runs it, but me in particular, I didn't want to run that card because it hasn't been as good. Because if you think about it, when you play against Burn, you're not really looking to summon that card. It's a really bad card. They have Rat, Giant Rat, other cards like that can punish that card. Also against Chaos Turbo in particular, sometimes you can help them, hitting their Night Assailant, Thunder Dragons, or even putting a Dark in the graveyard when they didn't have any. So there's a lot of good applications as to why you should run it, but for me, I decided not to run it, and I wanted to go with Golem Sentry because it's really strong against Burn. Burn deck has actually a lot of trouble with this card. They don't really have a real out to it, in particular. So if you can get this card, if you can draw this card early, you can pretty much win the game safe and sound, as long as you can keep your life points up. And also, it's really good against Chaos Turbo, which we all know. So other than that, Warrior decks, it's not that good, but I kind of had a strategy behind swapping out cards with the Golem Sentry to kind of throw them off a little bit, but you will see that in the side deck. So if we can get into the spells, Duo, Pot, Graceful, Heavy, Space Typhoon, and Snatch. Premature Burial, Nobleman, Reinforcements. Gotta get rid of that bypass. And Upstart. All right, so as far as for the traps, I don't have much to say about the spells. They're pretty much staples, besides Upstart and 3 Solemn Judgment. Trap that shoot. and 2 of those. Dust Tornado. I ran 2 of those. And Saku. Ran 2 Saku and Tori. Torrential. Air Force. Ring. And call it 100. So that's my main deck. I don't know why I just did that, but that's my main deck. So like I said, I didn't run Jar Greed. That's a big difference between most of the decks that's running Upstart Goblin. They run 2 Jar Greed, some even run 3. I didn't want to run Jar Greed because again, there's another one of those cards I didn't have a real reason as to why I didn't, other than the simple fact that I felt like for a warrior deck, you want to have all your cards at your disposal right away. And with Jar Greed, you don't really have that option. So and usually when they run Jar Greeds, they're running 13 monsters. But since I was not running Jar Greed, I bumped it up to 14 monsters. That's the reason why I have 2 golems instead of 1. Everything else, I mean, the heart and the soul of the deck is Solemn Judgment. That's a lot of the reasons why I was winning. I played against some really good players, and Dust Trap Shoot was another MVP card of the tournament. There's a lot of warrior decks that are not choosing to run the Trap Dust Shoot. Some do. I guess maybe it's like a 60-40 split. 60% of the players are not running them, but and that's because maybe they're assuming they're going to play a lot of warriors, so they're opting not to run it, or at least put it in the side deck. But I felt like at an event like this, I was expecting to play a wide range of different decks, so I decided to run the Trap Dust Shoot. And so yeah, so now when we look at the side deck, I ran Kinetic Soldier. What it's called on here. That. So I ran 2 of those. I ran 2 Kinetic Soldiers because against the mirror match, I would side out the golems and I would put those in there. So I would put in the Kinetic Soldiers. So a lot of the times, which I didn't really get to exploit that. So if they see you set a card, maybe they still think you have golem set, which is tough for them because they can't know for sure if you sided them out. So they usually try to opt to attack with like a Blade Knight, setting 4 or 5 or whatever, trying to get over it, and they realize it's a Kinetic Soldier. So there's some play there. Also, which I didn't mention, is that against running Golem against Chaos, they usually side out Nobleman, right? But when they see Golem Sentry in your deck, it really puts them in a bit of a pickle as to should they side out Nobleman or should they not, because they know that Golem's going to stay in the deck. So you kind of put them in a situation to keep running cards that are not that good against warriors. So I felt like there was some play there, which again, the whole goal is to try to make players misplay, to keep cards in that they probably shouldn't. They know they shouldn't, but you put a lot of pressure on them to come up with a solid solution as to how to deal with the deck. And that's kind of what I was going for, was just to switch things up to make players make some tough decisions, especially in a tournament like this where there is a time limit, because online there's usually no time limit. So players have a lot of time to kind of figure out how they want to go about it. But in an event like this, you don't have that long to make decisions, and there's a lot more pressure on you. And I ran 2 Spy. So again, against the warrior deck, I would side in the 2 Kinetic Soldiers and the 2 Spy. Now when I would take out for the spies, I usually would take out the level 2, and I usually would take out a Kaiku. So I would take out a Kaiku and a level 2, and also 2 golems to side in the 2 spies and the 2 Kinetic Soldiers, because against warriors, they side out noblemans, they side out level 2, So a lot of the times when you start setting against them, they're not used to that because they're used to you having so many monsters in attack mode, so, and being aggressive. But I wanted to play a little different, to throw off them, and it worked out really well. I did catch a lot of players off guard with that. Also, I ran Mobius. I ran 2 Mobius, particularly for Burn, which I did play against Burn deck. That event worked out really well. And I side the Dark Scorpion Cliff, which in combination, that's one thing you should know, that there's a few combinations that are really good with Golem. Golem and Kaiku against Chaos is really strong. Bouncing their monsters back and keeping Kaiku on the board, that's a really tough combo for them to deal with. And also against Burn, Golem and Cliff is a really tough combo for them to deal with as well, because they can't out the Golem, and also Cliff is a card that starts to knock down all their back row. So that's another scenario that can come up that they're not used to dealing with, right? And that's the thing, is to throw players off. And I only ran one King Tiger. I wish I would have ran more, but at the time I didn't really find any space to have them in there. I didn't run Tribe in my main deck, which wasn't that bad, because I think against the warrior decks, again, most warrior decks main deck, mostly every deck main decks Tribe. I didn't run main deck Tribe because I think against the warrior deck, I just found too many scenarios where I was drawing it early in the game, and I didn't like seeing it. And then against Chaos Turbo, I think it's really good against Chaos Turbo, but I felt like, again, it just, in certain scenarios, it just was not good. Like early in the game, if they don't have spies face up, or they're usually not summoning Chaos Sorcerer, as long as you're, there's times that they're going to get it on the board regardless of what you do, but they shouldn't be getting Chaos Sorcerer on the board, because you could be in trouble. So I felt like a lot of the times Tribe just didn't see, I didn't see enough utilization in it, so I just decided not to main deck it. I only kept it in the side deck, particularly for Burn, and I ran Royal Command, 2 Royal Commands, which and I ran it because I thought it'd be good against the Chaos deck. But what I started to notice was that Chaos was hiding out a lot of their flip effects, and they were siding into like beat sticks, Berserk Gorillas, things of that nature, and Zombro the Dark. So they went more to a beatdown Chaos warrior / beatdown style of a type of deck, and so I didn't really get to utilize that card that much, because again, they're gonna side out most of their flip effects. So that's one card I definitely would not play going forward. I played Widespread as well. I played one of those just for the warrior deck. Also, and Sakuritsu for the warrior decks and for the Burn. And then again, sometimes against the Chaos Turbo, if they're really going, if they have a lot of beaters, then I would opt to put in one as well. And against Go Control, you put them in there. So it just depends on kind of how they're going about it, and what they're siding in and out. And I sided one Zing against the warrior, which I only played against one warrior, Soulmaster. And I didn't get a chance to see it or use it, so I can't say whether it was great or not, but obviously it's one of those cards that's really good. And there's one card I'm missing. How is that possible? Okay, yeah. Mystic Walk, which I think everybody should main deck at least one. Side deck at least one, because Burn is a real deck, and you don't ever want to get locked out. So just some key takeaways. I felt about Golem, I felt like it was really strong. It definitely changes up the pace of the warrior deck, because there's just times where like you want to get more monsters on the board, but Blade Knight is ineffective at that point against Chaos Turbo. So I felt like Golem was a good change of pace when I could set and I can still start to flip their monsters up and still put in a lot of damage without having to worry about getting rid of their flip effects without them getting effects. So not running Donzalug, I didn't see any difference because most of the time I'm not ever going to grab Donzalug, so I didn't notice anything different in there. I liked the upstarts. They were a good card to side out. And also not having Jar of Greed, I didn't notice anything bad about it. I felt really good not running it. Although it's still good to run. It's just, again, particularly my play style and the way I like to play the game. Just like I said, getting cards right away and not having to wait a turn necessarily. The side deck overall, I mean, there are definitely some changes I've made to it. And if you want to know more about that, just you can either hit me up on Discord, GMFreshirl, or you can comment down below and I'll give you some insight at some of the differences and the things that I changed up. I give you one King Tiger. I would probably run that 2 or 3. It's really good right now, especially in Warrior. Royal Command I wouldn't run at all, but overall, man, I had a good time at the event. Met a lot of good players, and I felt like I did pretty well, man. But other than that, man, I mean, that's the deck list. If you have any questions, just comment down below and I'll give you some explanation as to why this or that. Other than that, man, peace. Did I say man? Other than that, guys, peace.